Hello and welcome back to the Bears and Lions podcast. I'm Kyle Vaught. One of my favorite movies is a psychological thriller written and directed by Guy Ritchie. The movie is called Revolver, and it has a star-studded cast. I mean, Jason Statham, Ray Liotta. It even has Andre 3000 from Outkast, and he's absolutely phenomenal in it. But the movie follows Jason Statham's character, Mr. Green. And all throughout the movie, you get to hear this inner dialogue that Mr. Green is basically talking to himself. And it's such a creative and beautiful movie. I mean, it really is well done with great writing. But there's an amazing scene at the end where Mr. Green has a conversation with himself. And it's a difficult conversation. It's very fleshed out and very unique. Without spoiling anything for you, because I do recommend you go watch it. It is rated R, so viewer discretion is advised. But without spoiling the movie, this conversation and how it's filmed and how it's fleshed out is so beautiful because I think it greatly resembles what it looks like to face your demons. And that's what I want to talk to you today about in today's podcast is facing your demons, because I believe we all have demons to face, right? We have an unknown and unnamed battle that we silently face within ourselves every single day. And it's not always intentional that we try to fight it alone. I just think that most of the time we couldn't even describe the battle if we tried. And what happens is we end up feeling like we fail sometimes. But I believe that we never really beat our demons. We just get to a point where we take the power back from them and they can't control us anymore. Now, it's interesting because these conversations and facing our demons it's very prominent. I think we all have an understanding of it. We know what it's like to face our demons. We all have these battles that kind of pull on us, and each one of us has a specific, right? It's not like my battle is the same as your battle or your battle is the same as your friend's battle. There may be similarities, but they're all very unique, specific to us. And these battles often cause a unhealthy level of anxiety, and that anxiety often turns to depression or regret or frustration. And it's very interesting because we live in a society that has more resources than ever to fight depression. We have more abilities and better help and things like that. We have all this resource that's pooled and poured into mental health. However, mental health and depression has actually risen over the last 20 years. In fact, there was this massive spike from 2020 to 2023. It was like almost 6% spike. And of course, we've gone through some very traumatic things like COVID. And of course, we've had crazy situations and events all around the world that are also impacting it. But we didn't know about that years and years and years ago. A lot of it has to do with social media and the internet, because now we do know more. And with more knowledge comes more depression, because with more knowledge, you know more of what's happening. And so it's very interesting that there is such a rise considering all of the resources. And I've looked at my life as well and some of the things that I have gone through, and I've wondered, you know what, why am I still dealing with these things, or what's going on here? Because this is something maybe specific. This demon that I'm facing, it keeps poking its head up. And that's one of the reasons why I say I don't believe that demons ever fully die. I think we just get to the point where either we surpass them and we leave them in the dust and we just leave them behind and we don't have to deal with them anymore, or we just take back the power to the point where every time it does rear its head, nope, you have no power over me. So we just continue on because it can't control us. It can't control how we live our lives or how we're going to pursue something. If we hear a no, it's not going to crush us. And that's the type of world that I live in now, where I just understand there are going to be difficult things. There are going to be demons to face. There are always things that pop up here and there, but it doesn't have to control me. I do find it interesting, though, because in the society with all the resources, the most common advice I hear on social media about facing your demons all includes some form or a combination of meditation, clearing your mind, noise canceling headphones, listening to crazy amounts of podcasts or audiobooks that are fantasy, or audiobooks that basically take you out of reality, watching movies, TV shows, music, and hundreds of other distractions, basically, to clear your mind, to clear your heads. We just need to clear our heads. We need some time for ourselves. We need some R&R. We need to focus on ourselves. It's literally everywhere I go. Every two scrolls, two thumb taps up, I hear another advice of, you need more time focused on yourself. You need to make sure that you are putting a little bit of effort into yourself, or you need to make sure that you have good self-talk or self-help or self-manage. Like, everything is focused on you or me, right? We all are very selfish when it comes to that. And that's the advice is, oh, you're facing your demons. You need to lock in, or you need to take it on, or get to your point where you're focused on you and then focus on others. And I'm not necessarily opposed in that, because I do think that there is a value in putting on the mask on yourself first so that you can help the people around you. So please don't get that. And if you're going through something very difficult where you're facing a demon right now, or maybe you've just got through a period of facing your demons, I think it's good to recognize, what are you pouring your energy into? Because we focus an enormous amount of energy that, on things that bring us peace and bring us quiet. And the problem is that at the end of the day, when our heads hit the pillows at night, I think our brains are reacting, and there's very rarely actual peace in our minds or actual quiet. It's actually louder than ever, right? We don't know what to do. So we medicate, right? We medicate with doom scrolling and rewatching Friends and The Office for the 100th time, ever. But these are the things that we are struggling with as a society. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do know that I have certain answers that I have tried multiple times, and they're tried and true for me. They may not be perfect for you, but it's a starting point. So I want to have this conversation. There's a really cool saying that I really like. Our greatest future lies on the other side of a difficult conversation. You might have heard that before. I would like to add to it where it's, our greatest future lies on the other side of a difficult conversation, but most oftentimes that conversation just takes place within us, with us. Kind of like the movie Revolver, that conversation that Mr. Green has with himself is very direct, and it's very specific. Now, I'm not saying that we need to sit and have like a conversation where it's like, let's get tea and just talk about it. Let's talk things through. No, I do think that it's a little different than that, because it's probably going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable to sit with the things that make you angry. It's going to be uncomfortable to sit with the things that make you sad. It's going to be uncomfortable to sit with the things that give you anxiety or even depression, right? Maybe you've gone through a breakup, or maybe you've gone through something that has stuck. Maybe you've gone through a really traumatic thing and you don't want to bring it up anymore. It's one of those things where you feel like every time it brings up, you have this gut reaction where it just hurts really bad. Those are the type of things that I feel like it's hard to have that conversation with yourself, where you say, is this the root cause of why you're actually afraid right now? Is this the root cause why you're actually filled with anxiety right now, or anxious right now? And I don't think we need to learn how to clear our minds. Oftentimes that leads to just sweeping stuff off the porch, right? If you've got a porch with leaves and whatnot, it's fall right now. So if you've got a yard full of leaves, we can definitely rake the leaves up, but give it another week or two, the leaves are going to fall, or even another year, they're going to fall next year. And so we never really solve the root of the problem. We just solve the problem in the moment. And I don't think we need to clear our minds. What I think we need to do is we need to learn how to be focused on how we learn. We need to learn to be focused on specific things that matter most in that particular moment. And you may say, Kyle, I have ADD or I have ADHD. I can't do that. I can't focus on anything. And I completely understand. However, I do have friends who are ADD and I do have friends who are ADHD. And what I've recognized is that whether they're diagnosed or undiagnosed, some of them before they were diagnosed, before they took medication, they had really hard times focusing on certain things, but they were really, really good at focusing on others. And the reason I know this is because I have people who are, and you may be undiagnosed or diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but I guarantee that there have been songs in your life that you knew every word to. And you were able to focus enough by listening to the repetition of that song. You listened to it so much that eventually you knew the words, right? We talk about it and it's almost like, oh yeah, I totally know the words. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, all you have to do is go to like a football game or a baseball game or an event where they play Sweet Caroline. And if I said Sweet Caroline, I can guarantee in the car or wherever you are right now, you said ba ba ba. It's so unique that we can focus on certain things based on repetition. So even if you have ADD or ADHD, there is so much hope. And I'm not saying that that doesn't make it more difficult or less difficult. I think that yes, it is more difficult to focus on things, but it is possible. Which is why I think that if you're facing your demons and you're always trying to clear your mind, what you end up doing when you're ADD or ADHD is you start sweeping everything out and you clear your mind from everything, and then you don't know where to start because you had some thoughts here and you had some thoughts here, and then this thought came in and you didn't like that, so you just swept everything away and you lost the other thoughts. So I think it's not about trying to clear our mind. I think it's about learning what thoughts we need to focus on and what thoughts we need to prioritize. And it's very unique because I've found that in same way of memorizing or listening to songs that I've gotten to know, it's kind of like laundry, right? When you're listening to a song for the first time and it's got a really good beat, you may not know all the words, but you may catch like the riff or the one part of the song, right? There's like one part where you're just like, okay, I get it. And then when you sing it, it's like, you just make these weird noises in the car, but you kind of get the rhythm down. But then before you know it, you start being able to, I actually think I do know this song, right? All of a sudden in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where I spent most of my days, chilling out, maxing, and I could go on and on and on. But the point is you get the little bits at first and it's unrecognizable. But then as you listen to it and you learn how to focus on, let's learn this specific part first. And that's why I call it's kind of like laundry. Earlier I was doing laundry. Throw the whole pile on the couch and then you move it to the bed and then you move it to the couch and then you move it to the bed and then you move it to the couch and eventually you fold it. Maybe that's just me. But today I had to get meal preps done. I also had to fold laundry. I kind of was like, what am I going to do here? And the pile as itself, it was actually 2 loads because I had moved it to the bed and the couch a couple times. But the pile of itself, I was like, this is overwhelming. So what did I do? I sorted it. I sorted the laundry. So I put all the gym shorts into one pile, all the gym t-shirts in another pile. I put all the towels in another pile, underwear, socks in another pile. And I just kept throwing everything. It didn't matter. It didn't need to have a specific order at that point. I didn't need to fold it, as I got it. I just dumped it all. Then I was like, here's a pile here, here's a pile there, here's a pile there. I need to do this. So I went and actually meal prepped, came back, did all the socks. And the socks were all right together. So it was really easy. Just put them inside out or, flip them around and then put them together in pairs. Then I went and did a little bit more meal prepping. Then I came back. I did all the shorts. Boom, put them away. Neat, cool. They're all folded. Then I came back, did all the underwear. And I just kept doing little bits and little bits and little bits at a time because it was sorted. And so we need to learn how to sort our thoughts in our mind. Instead of trying to clear our minds, we actually need to just learn how to sort the thoughts in our minds, which allows us to grab them when they actually come to us. Say, oh, I don't need that thought right now, but I will come back to it because I know it's in that pile. And then we're able to say, you know what? That's not going to give me anxiety because I know exactly where it is. It's like when you walk into a house and you know it's controlled chaos because you look around and you're like, hey, where's this? And they're like, oh, it's actually in this drawer behind that, under that. It's like they know where it is, so it doesn't stress them out because they do know where everything is. It's just interesting to me because I've faced so many demons in my life where I feel like I stress myself out more than anybody else or the experience or the things that I'm going through. I am the one who actually causes the anxiety by the way that I'm reacting to it. And it's interesting when I look back on my life, because now I'm 36 years old. So looking back 20 years, I was in high school and I have vivid memories. It's not like when I was a child where I can't remember these traumatic experiences. I remember in high school or, in my young 20s going through a breakup, right? Where it traumatically impacted me. And that trauma response where I'm like, oh, this hurts so much. And that demon rears its head up every once in a while. And it says, oh, well, that person broke up with you, so nobody's going to love you. As I've grown older, I've recognized that that's a lie because there have been so many other people who have loved me along the way. Now, if you had asked me that like 2 weeks after the breakup or even 2 months after one of the breakups where it took me a really long time, it would have hurt for a lot. It definitely, I probably wouldn't have reacted that way. I'm sure we've all seen the movie Batman Begins. And if you haven't, 100% you need to go see it like now because it's Christopher Nolan. It's Christian Bale's first Batman movie. It's so, so good. But in the movie, if you have seen it, you remember the flashbacks that Bruce has. Spoiler alert, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Mind blown. But the flashbacks reveal that Bruce is afraid of bats because of a experience he had as a child, and he has PTSD where he's afraid of something that's actually technically external from the experience, but it was a part of the experience. And so that is actually what triggers the response. And I want to pause for a second just right there, because I believe that we can all connect to that narrative. That narrative we understand probably better than most. We've all been through a job loss or a breakup that crushed us. Maybe we went through a failure that just did not feel good. Maybe we failed a class or failed a degree, whatever it might have been. Some people may have gone through a divorce at this point. And you just feel like, oh, there's a traumatic experience that you go through, right? We all went through COVID. It's a traumatic experience. We have places we won't go or movies we won't watch, or the moment a certain song comes on the radio or comes on the playlists, we immediately turn it to a different song because that song brings up the pain or brings up the memory of the person who brought us pain. And it's a traumatic response. It's a trauma response. I think it's a very human response too, because we are meant to learn and adapt and evolve throughout our experiences. And so one experience might teach us, oh, that hurt really bad. We don't want to do that again. But we are the one species that can go against our response mechanisms, our instincts, and we can actually grow from it and change and adapt. Now, back to Batman Begins, right? The different flashbacks reveal that he's afraid of bats. And so it's very unique. And I loved the beautiful scene. There's an incredibly beautiful scene where, as an adult, Bruce actually climbs down the hole that caused the trauma when he was a child. And once he gets down into the cave, he is immediately swarmed with bats. His greatest fear. And at first he reacts with fear and he kind of shrinks down. But in the movie, the music wells and he stands up in the midst of the swarming bats all around him, in the midst of the things that he is afraid of. He stands up and he sits in that moment and in that fear until the fear is gone and he's no longer afraid. What's so beautiful about that scene is it's actually rooted in science. That's what's called prolonged exposure therapy, or PE therapy is what it's short. And it's a treatment for PTSD specifically. And the treatment is basically, it involves being in a safely monitored environment, and you're guided by the therapist basically to immerse yourself in your greatest traumas, your flashbacks of memories and the things that bring up that trauma response and the reaction and the anxiety. And you immerse yourself for very short periods of time and just over and over and over again. And each time you try to get a little bit longer period and a little bit longer and a little bit longer until that memory or flashback no longer produces that response. And you just are okay. It's really cool because I think a lot of us have probably experienced this unknowingly of this is just how life is. If you go through a breakup, like I mentioned before, I went through a breakup. If you asked me 2 months after of like, hey, are you thinking about her? It would crush me. Ripped, dead, dying inside. Put me on the couch and just let me wallow. But over time, those flashbacks, they didn't have the same power, right? As me 2 months after the breakup versus me 2 years after the breakup was a completely different person, to where, somebody would bring, yeah, didn't you date that person? Yeah, it didn't work out. And now me 10 years after that, it's, oh man, I hope she's doing well. Like there's no ill thought. And so we that trauma response is gone because there's an immersion of thoughts, an immersion of that flashback or that memory of that has kind of been tamed over time, where it doesn't produce that same effect, mostly because it doesn't hold its power anymore. Like I recognize that one failed relationship doesn't mean all relationships are going to fail. And I'm fully okay with that. And it doesn't impact me the same way. But I think it's really cool because the prolonged exposure therapy, it's also used in allergies. So in allergies, it's actually called, let me get this right, allergen immunotherapy. I've always wanted to do it because I do have a couple allergens, but I've never really wanted to or I've never really gotten to the point where I've needed to or necessarily wanted to, because I've just gotten used to not eating certain foods and I'm not really worried about it at this point. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe after this conversation, that's what I'm going to be doing. But the allergen immunotherapy is basically where you get small doses of the allergy that you have, and you get small doses by doctors, and they monitor you, of course, and it's done in a professional environment. And over time, your body builds an immunity to that allergy because the doses are so small, and then they get larger and larger until your body has fully become immune to it, so you don't have that allergic reaction, right? It can literally save lives. I've heard of people doing it with like peanut allergies that are really, really bad, or even celiac and like the reaction to wheat. And maybe it's not celiac exactly, the gluten intolerance one, not celiac. Celiac's different. But it's so cool to see that this is all rooted in science. It's actually not just rooted in science, but it's rooted in our experiences, right? We've all gone through something that hurt really bad. And in the moment, it hurt really bad. You brought it up just after and it hurt really bad. You brought it up a little bit after and it hurt a little bit less. And then you bring it up later and it doesn't hurt as much. Then you bring it up very later. Doesn't hurt at all, right? You just get over it. You have experienced it enough, or you've immersed yourself so much in those thoughts and in the flashbacks and in the memories and in the trauma that it just doesn't have any power over you anymore. And so when you're facing your demons, I think that is actually the difficult conversation we have to be able to have. It's not the self-help. It's not the self-help mantras or the drugs that you can take. A lot of those, they work. They do. Distractions can work as well, but a lot of them work in the short term. And it causes it very like a disassociated idea of those demons that you're facing, those issues that you're facing, because it's just masking the problem, or it's numbing the pain, or it's numbing the problem. And what I've found is that they don't really ever go away. That's why I said before, I don't think the demons that we face, I don't think they ever really die. I just think that you have to be able to recognize that some problems just can't be solved until you sit with them. And once you sit with them long enough, they lose their power over you, because you recognize that this problem is not really a problem. And even if it is a problem, it's not bigger than what you're capable of doing. And sometimes you'll face these problems. And I'm not saying all problems are like this, but there are a lot of them out there. And so when you're facing your demons and you're scanning through TikTok or social media or whatever, and you hear, oh yeah, you just need to clear your head or meditate. Okay. Maybe you need to meditate on the problem. Maybe you need to sit with it for a little bit longer. Maybe once you realize it's not that scary, it's not going to impact and control you. Because we all have that person, right? Oh, I don't want to see them here, so I'm not going to go to this place. That's a crazy thought. You're giving that person so much power over you. And I understand it's a thing. Like I've lived years of my life where I've avoided people. I've avoided certain situations. I've avoided certain friend groups. I remember going through a breakup about, oh man, this was probably 15 years ago or so. Yeah, this was probably 15 years ago. I went through a breakup and it shattered my friend group, because I was friends and she was friends, when all of our friends were friends together. And so when we broke up, it was like everywhere I went was this reminder of the world is broken, and my relationship didn't work out, and she's got her friends and I've got my friends, but they're all confused on like, can we hang out? Or anytime we did hang out together, it was just super awkward. Oh my gosh, the stories I have where I was just young and naive and stupid. But we have those moments where we think about that, and the distractions will work for a while, but you don't actually solve the problem until you've sat with it for a while. And so just in wrapping up, I really want you to recognize when you're facing your demons, there's a lot of knowledge and there's a lot of wisdom in being able to recognize what you can and can't handle. But I do think that there is power in recognizing how powerful you are and what you can control. For me, there are things in my life that I've sat with, and as I've grown older, I've recognized, you know what? What's the root cause of this? And as I've grown older, I've gotten more brazen and bold, where it's, hey, do I have control over this? No. Then why am I freaking out? I have no control over this. Like, I actually don't have the ability to change weather or to change traffic patterns or anything like that. So why am I getting frustrated or having anxiety about this? There's no reason for me to have anxiety about certain things that I can't control. But if I sit with myself and have a difficult conversation and I'm thinking about something maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times, maybe there's something going on, and I sit and have a conversation with myself, very difficult. I face my demons. Hey, is this something that you're doing or you have control over? Yes. Oh, it's time to act. It's time to do something. I have control over it. So I need to make sure that I do what I can with my power to control what I can control, so that down the road, I'm not looking back going, I was really worried about this and it happened. Well, if I had control over it, why didn't I do anything about it then? I find that there's a lot of excuses in my brain when it comes to, if I only knew then what I know now. Well, I think a lot of us actually know now what we should do for tomorrow, right? It goes both ways. And I wake up sometimes and I face my demons that say, you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it today. And realistically, I'm like, no, I do. Because I have spent too many of my years saying, I wish I knew then what I know now. Because now would be a lot better if I had done things different. And I know that. So now I'm focused on, what do I know now that future me is going to be thankful for? And those demons that you face, they're going to come up and they're going to rear their heads and they're going to say, no, you don't have to. Or, you can take a day off. Or, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Or, always know your truth, speak your truth, live your truth, relax. It's not a you thing. It's the world. It's the society around you. Well, a lot of it's all controlled by you. Your reactions and how you react to certain things. All of that's under your control. And I think it's important to be able to recognize that, hey, we have some control. And we have to stop giving other things, our anxiety, our ego, the power to influence us and say, no. You went through that breakup because they didn't love you. And you know what? That probably means that nobody's going to love you. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a self-preservation of, I don't want to experience that pain again, so I'm going to tell you a lie so that you don't go out and try to do something exciting or great or meet somebody or get a new job or go back to school or whatever your fear is of, I can't do that. I'll fail. Yeah, of course. You don't want to feel failure, so you just throw everything out at the same time. It's an important conversation to recognize that the demons that we face that are within us, they don't just die. We don't just sweep them away like dust on a porch. We get to a point where they just have no control. They may be there. Nobody else can see them because we can't even describe them if we tried. Certain thoughts, it's certain things, it's certain experiences. It's like little things that come up when you lay your head on your pillow, and then all of a sudden those voices are, hi, I'm here. Since I have you here, now I'm not a licensed therapist and I'm not going to try to go through this, but I do think that it would be really cool to go through a light version of what I've been doing and my guided prolonged exposure therapy. I'm not going to therapy about this. This is just personal stuff that I'm doing. And I think that it's useful and it's helped me. And so I hope it will help you. And wherever you are, if you're driving or working or getting ready for school or whatever you're doing, I hope that you'll take a second and you'll just stay with me here. All right. And you'll go through this with me. Okay. because there's a few questions that I think are going to prompt you to think about certain stuff. And you can use this on your own as well, to whether you're doing meditation or journaling, where you want to sit with your problems or sit with your demons or face the things that are going on, face the struggle. And I want you to take these, because I think these are really important questions, and I've been asking myself, and it's actually just truly given me power back. So the first thing I want to do before we get started here is, instead of clearing your mind, which most people, when they meditate, they'll say, okay, let's clear our mind. No, I want to fill your mind. I want you to take every single thought and jam it into your head right now. I want you to think about all the good stuff that happened over the last week, all the bad stuff that happened over the last week, all the stuff that you have to do this week, all the stuff that you didn't do last week, all the stuff that I want you to overwhelm yourself with the thoughts. I want them all to be inside of your brain and in your mind and within grasp. Great. Now that you've done that, great. That was the podcast. Have a good one. No, I'm kidding. Now that you've done that, I want you to just sit there with all the thoughts going on and just hear them. Listen to them. Which ones are causing you anxiety? Right? Just which ones are coming to mind all of a sudden? Oh, I don't want to think about that. And then go with me here. Question number 1. What influences you on a daily basis? And out of those thoughts, which ones pop up? Let me rephrase the question even. What controls you on a daily basis? Is it you? Is it your actions? Or is it your desire for certain accolades or accomplishments? You want certain people to look at you a certain way. Maybe you are single like me and you want to be a viable dating option, hopefully a viable spouse option one day. So what does that do to control you? How do you react through the day? And what I've found is that whatever influences you or whoever influences you has control over you, whether it's a little bit or a lot of it. Right? It might be something as simple as, oh, I really like those shoes. I would love to get something like that. Well, now it's controlled the way that you are thinking or what you want to buy. Or maybe it's somebody who's been super encouraging. Oh, I love the way they carry themselves. I just felt so safe around them. I want to be more like them. Well, now that person's influenced you in a positive way. And that person's going to control how you're going to start acting throughout the day. Think about those thoughts, all of those thoughts that are in your head, and you just pictured somebody that you really appreciate. You pictured something that you really want. So you're grasping and you're sorting the thoughts while they're all there at the same time. Now I want to ask you, what gives you anxiety? Which thought is just stressing you the F out? Like I can't do this right now. I don't want to deal with it. What are you afraid of? Is there a certain amount of the anxiety that is also fear, where you're like, ooh, I don't want to fail here. I don't want to look stupid here. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to mess up. I want to succeed, and I'm afraid I'm not going to. If something is causing enough anxiety where you're thinking about it multiple times a day or multiple days in a row, most likely you're living in fear. There's something about that you are so afraid of that it's reoccurring, and that demon is popping up and just rearing its head. Hey, don't forget, I'm right here. What are you afraid of? And then lastly, something to think about and journal about and recognize that this is possible. What would life look like if you didn't have to worry about that? What would life look like if, when that demon reared its head, you just said, not really worried about you? Like, yeah, I know you're there, but you have no power. You don't impact me. You don't affect me. You don't control me. So I don't care if you scream until you're blue in the face. You have no power. You can't control me. You can't influence me. Right? We have these moments where we want to face our demons, but sometimes we just have to sit in them with all the thoughts in our head. And we have to recognize that there is a life out there where it doesn't have to control you. And it doesn't have to influence you. Last question. What would it take to reclaim the power that your demons have over you? Whether it's an insecurity, an anxiety, fear, an embarrassment, a selfishness, narcissistic thought, where it's all about you and I don't ever want it to be about anybody else. What would it take to reclaim that power? What type of consistency would you need? How many immersion, prolonged exposure therapies would you need where you bring up the flashback, you bring up the trauma, and you say, okay, I'm going to face this once a week until it's no longer impacting me. I'm going to face this throughout my month or throughout 2026. I'm going to dedicate one day a month where I just sit with my problems and write them down and write down solutions. And I expose myself to it to the point where it's not impacting me anymore. It doesn't have control over me anymore. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I think that when we're facing our demons, the biggest thing that we stress is we want it all fixed at once. But what I've learned is that's not how it works. It's the continuous exposure. Little by little, by little by little, by little by little, it just doesn't have that same gut feeling of, I'm afraid. Or, that hurts. Or just saying her name or saying his name brings up frustration or anxiety or pain from that memory. And there's things that we've gone through, this trauma that have reared itself up, and the way we processed it, maybe originally we didn't process it well. But now we have the ability, we have the resources, we have the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the wherewithal. We are old enough, we have the wisdom or the courage to be able to say, I'm going to face it. And I'm not going to let it control me anymore. I'm not going to allow it to be an influence over how I enjoy my life, how I live my life. There's a line in The Hobbit that has stuck out to me lately, and it's from Gandalf, and I love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but this writing is so beautiful, and it says, "Some believe that it is only great power that can hold evil back. But that is not what I've found. I've found it is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. It's the small acts of kindness and love." I appreciate each and every one of you that listen to this podcast. And honestly, these last few weeks of getting back in swing of the podcast and doing these podcasts and writing these podcasts and experiencing it has drummed up some demons. If I feel like a failure so many times, whether I miss a podcast or it's not as good or I don't get views or nobody listens to it. But the thing about this podcast that I will absolutely say is forcing myself to write and think about these things and try to share it in a way that I wish somebody would have shared with me or that I could listen to. It's forced me to deal with some of it and sit with some of my problems. And in sitting with some of my problems, I face those demons and they just aren't as scary anymore. And it's built confidence in me. So thank you. Thank you to all of you who listen. Thank you to all of you who share or comment or like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I would love to connect. Social media, I'm most active on Instagram, which is at Kyle_Vaught. That's V as in Victor, ATT is how you spell my last name. And I would love to connect. It's down in the description below as well if you want to just click it and follow. I would love to connect and talk. It would be really exciting to be able to do an episode where I answer questions or I dig in a little bit and help somebody through. So if you have something and you just want to talk about it, whether on the podcast or outside, hit me up, DM me. My DMs are open for everybody. I hope that you will face your demons this week. I hope that this week is the last week where the things that you've been carrying for the last few weeks or months, this week is the last week where you say, I'm going to sit with it and we're going to get it done. And I'm going to sit with it until I'm not afraid anymore. Kind of like Batman. The best thing too is that movie Revolver. The very end, when he has this conversation, you leave with the sense of that's how you have the conversation with yourself. That's how you face your demons. So I hope you'll go watch that movie. But for everybody, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.